I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals. It is Saturday, June 6, 2020, and we are talking about Cristobal, a storm that is a tropical storm less than 300 miles away from New Orleans. You can barely make out where the center of the circulation is, and that's why these weather instruments are used by the hurricane hunters. It's called a drop zone. They've been in the storm today, dropping these instruments, trying to find the lowest pressure, and that's what helps us figure out how strong it is and how fast it's moving. Here, let me give you the breakdown of where it is, where it's going, and how it's going to get there. My focus area is the Mobile, Pensacola area, the north central Gulf Coast, and fortunately for us, this system is going to be more to our southwest. This is the prediction. Midday on Sunday, we'll have an east wind becoming a southeast wind in the afternoon. The computer projection shows circulation likely making landfall late afternoon in southeastern Louisiana as a tropical storm. Now tomorrow evening, Sunday evening into Monday morning, that's when that southeast wind becomes southerly. The wind picks up. That will create storm surge. It will give us a risk of isolated tornadoes, and then it's going to be rain, not just at landfall, but also after landfall. That's Monday morning, even into Monday afternoon. So this is a storm to watch like all tropical systems. For the NBC 15 area, our biggest concern right now would be high tropical storm force winds, mainly along our beaches. Storm surge of 1 to 2 to 3 feet. But if you take all of these potential impacts, they are all greater to the south of Highway 98 and also to the west of Mobile Bay. So coastal Mississippi, southeastern Louisiana, those numbers are all going to be higher. So as of late afternoon, maximum wind 50 miles an hour. It's moving northward steadily at 12. This is a good thing because it gives it little time to really strengthen. The forecast projection shows roughly 60-mile-an-hour winds at landfall sometime late Sunday afternoon in southeastern Louisiana. And then as it quickly goes to just remnants, the remnants go all the way up into Canada. Very typical for a tropical system to do that. On the way, we have a tropical storm warning all the way from coastal Florida Panhandle, Choctawhatchee Bay, Pensacola Bay, East Bay, Mobile Bay, all the way across Bay St. Louis to southeastern Louisiana. Now, tropical storm warning is for the wind. When you talk about the actual rain threat, the dark green, that's a flood watch. The light green is a flash flood watch. And the big difference there is in the dark green, you're more likely to have steady rain for a longer period of time. In the light green, you're more likely to get feeder bands where you get those sudden downpours. So rapid flooding a little more likely farther east, slower flooding more likely closer to the center. And when you add the wind with the ocean itself, the wind pushes the water up against the coast. So where you see the magenta or fuchsia color, that's where you're potentially going to see storm surge of 2 to 4, maybe 5 feet. So for me, average person, that's about up to here. Along the NBC 15 area, part of the coast, it's more like 2 to 3 feet. Across southeastern Louisiana, also a storm surge watch. So we get into tomorrow. As those feeder bands move ashore along with the center of the storm, what you see in yellow, that's the threat of severe thunderstorms, winds gusting over 60 miles an hour. Specifically for tomorrow, and that's a level 2 out of 5, a slight risk. Specifically, the threat would be tornadoes, more likely in that yellow area, still possible across the NBC 15 area, less likely as you get much farther north of Highway 98. And all of this is just about what you would expect with a tropical system that makes landfall. As of mid-afternoon across the Gulf Coast, deadly surf. On this view, I don't see anyone in the water. That is wise. Do not get in the water. And what you'll notice as you're outside the next night and day tomorrow, the low clouds will be coming in from the east. The high clouds will be going to the east. That also tells you there's something out in the Gulf of Mexico. At Gulf shores north of the canal, steady winds are 15 miles an hour mid-afternoon, and the rain has been just sort of half and half. Now, the steady rain is still offshore. What the radars can't do at this point is find the eye, because the radar only goes out about 250 miles. So eventually, you'll see the eye appear in the radar, and what you'll notice if you watch it this evening, tonight into tomorrow, the eye is going to wobble west and east. West and east, they do that all the time. It doesn't mean the track is necessarily shifting. So here's what we're looking at for wind. Going through the afternoon and evening, it's been a windy day along the coast, a little breezy inland, 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Along our beaches, winds 25, 30 miles an hour. Steady wind, but they're going to gust 40, 45 miles an hour. Inland in the morning, 15-mile-an-hour winds gusting easily to 20. The more we go through the day, the higher the winds are going to be. So by late afternoon, steady winds of 30 miles an hour. The red indicates offshore. That's where you're going to definitely see those tropical storm force winds, which is usually the case. They come right up to the coast. And then going toward Sunday evening, 10 o'clock, likely after the system has made landfall, along the beaches, along the coast, tropical storm force winds, which start at 39 miles an hour. Inland counties and communities, you'll still see 15, 20, 25-mile-an-hour winds. Two things to be concerned about is not necessarily wind that's going to knock trees down, but tree limbs and tree branches from trees that are diseased or halfway compromised. And if you get a bunch of rain and the soil gets soggy, that sort of steady wind can begin to push trees over as we get into Sunday night, Monday morning. So even Monday morning, 7 a.m., steady winds about 35 miles an hour along the coast. A little bit higher for places like downtown Mobile. Could be 28-mile-an-hour winds. Notice inland north of Highway 84, same story. You could have steady winds Monday morning between about 20-25 miles an hour and gusting. And Monday afternoon, the winds gradually begin to subside. But don't forget, even though they will be subsiding, going into Monday midday, that's when there's another high tide. And with that steady south wind, we are likely to see water on Mobile's causeway splashing over. Happens all the time with the steady south wind, and that's always the concern for bays. Now at the beach, video earlier today from Perdido Key, watch the wash right there. That happens all the time. But if you take that and magnify it by about 2 to 3 feet, that's the sort of scenario that we potentially could see going into tomorrow along the beaches of the NBC 15 area. What I'll leave you with is a reminder. Most of us are under a tropical storm warning. The storm is projected to come in with 60-mile-an-hour winds. Anything can change one way or the other. So everything I've shown you is the best estimate right now. Later data could show something different, so you've always got to be prepared and always make sure you have a plan. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals.